Karibu sana. This is Morning Cafe. I'm yours truly, Stanley Ringita. It's a Tuesday, definitely. It is Biashara Tuesday, and this particular morning we talk about AI. What comes to your mind when you hear these two words, artificial intelligence? I have the right mind. Believe me, he is the right mind for this conversation, just understanding how important it is. He'll be telling us broadly where he is from. John Wafula, he is head and co-founder of Casper, among many other titles. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who is Wafula?
So Wafula is an AI engineer who is passionate about building AI products for not just the African market, but also global markets, and also at the same time impact lives using technology. Yeah, so my background is in statistics and computer science. I have been a practicing data scientist for quite some time. I have seen AI from its nascent stages when we were building traditional models to classify two things, binary aspects, all the way to when we were using transfer learning to export models from companies like Google, and now where we are at a level where we can use large language models to build AIs on top of AIs. Yeah, so that's ideally me. I'm the head of AI at the Artificial Center of Excellence based in Westlands, Nairobi. And how we work is our work is centered around research. So we use research to build IPs, we use research to build products, and then we spin off those products into companies. So Casper is one of them, and we also have another product called AgriCare.
Right.
Yeah.
So does Casper now focus on businesses?
Yeah, Casper is a smart AI credit scoring tool, which ideally, as compared to other traditional credit scoring tool, Casper is one of the first AI credit scoring tools that has the ability to utilize all external data points that exist that surround a person, an individual, an institution, anyone that has the need to access credit or anything including risk analysis or value scoring, or there's need for scoring. So Casper has the ability to tap in so many external data points and build a score and build value for someone. Yeah. Right.
Or trying to also sign up for Casper here and see with my logins and try to see how important to me it is going to be. But before we get into all this big words of AI, help us understand. And because even back at home, the question of the day that we're asking you, do you think AI is going to replace your job? The kind of job that unafanya sahi, unadhani artificial intelligence will replace it? Talk to us, utuambie. 22047 is our SMS number. That question is on our Facebook page. Engage with us as well. So even as you continue, before tuingie kwa hii maneno yote kubwa kubwa, help us understand. Artificial intelligence ni nini?
Okay, artificial intelligence in layman's language, it's the ability to give machines it's a science of giving machines the ability to mimicry human intelligence. So if we get all the aspects that I think of a human being, the things that we do, we see, we hear, we process information, and we act. So ideally, what we are doing is we are collecting data, because if I came here yesterday, I'll know the directions. So if I've trained my mind to know the exact direction. So it's the same thing that you're giving to machines. So machines have been there, robots have been there, they've been automated using a rule-based system where we're telling you, right, if you go in this direction, when you reach at a certain corner, just go to the left. But here here what we are doing is now we are telling these machines that if there's a road and you see a sign here that says left, you go left. So it doesn't have to be this road exactly. It could be any road. The goal is to make these machines think like human beings. Yeah.
All right. So that's now what we call machine learning, for example.
A multidisciplinary field that encompasses so many other fields inside, and one of them is machine learning. But you also have deep learning, we also have natural language processing, and we also have computer vision.
Okay.
So as me seeing and processing images with my eye, that's computer vision. And there processing that at the back of my mind and making decision, now that is deep learning. Rule-based systems where I have to train myself to probably work at a certain distance using some specific data, now that is machine learning. You put it all that together, artificial intelligence.
Right.
Yeah.
When you take a look at day-to-day kind of activities that we do, and even as Kenyans really, what's the common AI tool that we use since when you wake up, asubuhi uamke, uanze kunywa breakfast, all the way, either you go to your work, hadi urudi jioni usiku. What are some of these AI tools that we engage with?
I think there are those direct AI tools. I think a lot of people are using ChatGPT right now, which is the most significant disruptive type of AIs based on large language models. And I think specifically since November 2023, when the first interactive version was released, there has been a very steep growth in terms of adoption of even using these large language models, and ChatGPT is a common use. And then the other thing is the recommender systems. I think a lot of people use social media, and a lot of people do accept tracking devices with the ability of maybe a certain app to track your activity. So what you're doing is you're giving data to a recommender system, an AI recommender system that sits in the back. The recommender system will then scarp out data or scarp out similar information and now make it available to you. So if you're scrolling with Facebook, you'll get a certain set of feeds. If you're scrolling on Instagram, you'll set one type of content. If you're scrolling on TikTok, you'll get. So recommender systems are a type of AI, are a type of data science that we call unsupervised learning, where we have machine learning algorithms that sit at the back that are centered around behavioral analytics of a person or an individual. So they'll use that, and they have a certain set of functions, a certain set of mathematical algorithms that will then point out what's the nearest or what's the closest type of information, type of item, type of content. And this is also used in e-commerce. I think there's also one common trend in the e-commerce space is something called social commerce. The ability to buy and check out items within just a social media platform. I think this is has been largely been adopted, and it's been here for a long time actually. Right. Yeah.
And speak of being here for a long time, so according to Government AI Readiness Index, which was released by Oxford Insights, it places Kenya number 5 now in Africa. This is as of 2022. Then overall score of 40.3%. Egypt comes first, South Africa, Tunisia, and Morocco. So, and globally, it is position 90. So position 5 in Africa, position 90 globally, as of around 2022. The whole penetration of AI in Kenya. What do you make of this? Are we doing good when it comes to, even after what you've explained to us, the whole e-commerce, what do you make of this penetration?
So AI penetration and adoption in Africa is very different. The AI consumer market in Africa is very different than any other country, because AI does not just, it doesn't grow on its own, or the growth of AI is dependent on many other factors. Factors such as internet penetration, digital financial inclusion, factors like even infrastructural capacity of a country, internet connectivity, and these are the very aspects that will lead or influence the adoption of AI, not just in Africa, but in also other developing countries. So if these aspects are in place, then the adoption of AI is easier. Because if, let's just give an example of the digital divide in Kenya. If someone in probably a rural place in Kenya still uses a feature phone, building an AI system that can be used by a feature phone is not that easy. You need like really intensive infrastructure, really intensive compute power to get someone access an AI activity on a feature phone. And it probably might be the capital cost of building such a system might be very expensive. So those are the factors that we are looking at. So that will be very relative to every country. That's why you'll find in Africa it's top 5. Of course, we've seen Africa is a silicon savannah Kenya is a silicon savannah of Africa. Yeah. And I think it's a good thing. That's why it's on top. But ideally now, when you compare it globally, you see we're not doing good because of those exact factors.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you say, number 5 really seems to be quite good.
Yeah.
We are top there. We're number 5. We're the top 5. But then when it boils down to Africa, the different sectors that are there, agriculture, e-commerce, hospitality and industry, and other different sectors that are there in the country. As someone who eats and breathes AI really, because I mean, definitely you research on AI, how different sectors uptake it. What is your view on even the kind of sectors that have so far been able to utilize AI?
I think even in the Kenyan space, the fintech space is one takes a really big portion of even with the startup ecosystem or in the emerging technology sector. The fintech space, the financial space is one of the biggest because there's a lot of activities, there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to financial inclusion and making people have access to finance. So that is one of the biggest places, and that's one of, even as we're doing research when we're building Casper, our research for more than 3 years, the financial space is I'll say it has the biggest opportunity. And then the other space, of course, it's agriculture, and particularly one untapped area is in how do I call it, smallholder farming, smallholder, because if you look at the statistics, agriculture accounts for like 33% of our GDP, and 70% of that that contribution stems from smallholder farmers and smallholder individuals who practice subsistence farming. So building solutions, AI solutions for such people or such groups of people, then that can really bring a lot of change.
Right.
Yeah.
I love what you say, building solutions to this type of people. You're talking about the smallholder farmers, but then what does your research also show when it comes to how different groups for women, because over time we've had banks that are focusing only on women, even for SMEs as well. What has your research shown on this kind of groups? We've realized for different groups there's different needs. For different groups there are different needs, and understanding these needs might not be as direct as people might think. As it's not just a dual problem where this is a man problem, this is a woman problem. It takes a lot of data to understand, and part of the algorithms that we build in Casper is trying to stem or trying to put a name on these behavioral statistics. So some of the circles, let's just say circles or these groups were built for targeted individuals, and they try to make products or build financial products for those particular individuals. Now, what we've trained Casper to do is to take a lot of this information and help us curate products. So when you're asking, example, someone is asking for a loan of 300,000, most systems will either reject or approve. But for Casper can structure a loan, a specific loan based on data, both primary KYC data provided by our customer and external data that we can scamper out of open source. Things like climate data, demographic data, socioeconomic data, and you can then build a financial product, structure a loan, and then make it accessible to this particular individual. Right.
Yeah.
I want to stick around on the research that you're talking about for a moment and understand critically, because you say for, let's say, for women, for certain types of small businesses, as well as even for the whole informal sector, how there's a particular bias nature when it comes to the credit that they would receive. So first of all, was this because you said it's 3 years? It was done in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So was it done in all the counties, in the 47 counties? Or did you engage all the banks? How is this research conducted?
So research begins from data collection. So there's primary sources of data and secondary sources of data. So secondary sources of data, data that exist from publications, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. It's data that has been there, even population census. And then primary data is now when we engage these particular stakeholders. Now, to collect primary data, you need there's something called a sampling. We use statistical sampling techniques, and these sampling techniques, the idea is a sample for every sample that we take, or for every sample that we use to make conclusion, it has to represent the entire population. So we can't talk to every woman who is in a circle, but we can do a certain a test, or we can do a certain test that will represent every woman in a circle. So there are different types of testing. We have simple random sampling, we have a stratified sampling, cluster sampling. This will depend on the kind of population we're dealing with. And then from there are different scenario testing. We do statistical tests. These statistical tests that approve a certain hypothesis, a null hypothesis, or an alternative hypothesis. And then, of course, after that is we now complement or we make conclusive deductions based on this. And then after that, of course, we also understand that there are margins of error in every type of research. So there are things we call confidence intervals. So these confidence intervals will tell you we are 80% correct, but there's 5% chance we are wrong, and there's also 5% chance on the upper and lower limits. And we also we also publicize that. And then the other thing after that is done, we do it. We do it in a loop. We do it over and over until we get a consistent result. And then that's now the type of statistics that we use to build the products that we do. So it's not just one. We'll start with maybe women. We'll go to probably youth. We'll go to another hypothesis. Maybe if guys in the rural areas, what particular product would they need? We'll go to guys in metropolitan area. What's the particular product that will have the most value for them? And then we collect all these hypotheses centered in one report, analyze, and start building a product out of the research. Right. Yeah.
So in this research, did you focus on now have a whole outlook of the 47 counties and how different counties, the uptake of credit was?
Yes, yeah. Different. I think the problem, one of the biggest problems for any research institution or for any person doing research is availability of data and how you can extract that data. As much as there are all these statistical procedures that we use, we did try our best to try and reach to as much individuals and mass circles in all the 47 counties in Kenya. And because sampling 47 counties was not advisable for us, so we tried to reach out, because we do have contacts. We do have some of our associates, our business associates that are in different counties, so we leverage also on our connection. We also have signed MOU with institutions like CALRO that can give access to such kinds of individuals, and some of the financial institutions, some of the circles that can give direction, that can advise on how to access individuals. So we didn't get to everyone, but we did the majority.
Right. Yeah. So let's go with that, so that we can also even understand the human behavior when it comes to credit, because that's really one of those things that even for Biashara Tuesday really talk about mostly. And a number of callers wanajua that, and a number of viewers would know that, and they would experience that. Maybe kuna mtu mwenye anatuwatch sahi and they're even trying to even access one of this mobile money loans and such like. So for what the kind of research that you have, why do people really access some of this credit facilities? What's the human behavior when it comes to this, according to the research that you got?
I think there are different psychological aspects stemming from intuition. The other thing is planning. I think more often than not, there are unforeseen circumstances that happen to a human being in our environment, in our external environments. The unforeseen circumstances that might force you or employ you to access maybe instant credit, because it's something that you didn't see, something happened that you didn't see, so you'll require credit too. Development, access to capital or access to working capital, either short term or long term, to probably scale your business, probably to pay a loan or to probably provide financial incentives or to inject capital injection into a business for a particular purpose. Maybe you have a bad debt that needs to be injected for the sake of sustainability of that business, and it's mostly saying the unforeseen circumstances and the ability to scale or the need to scale, and also it could also be personal. You probably want to acquire, maybe you want to acquire a sofa, you want to acquire an item, but you are not in the financial, you don't have the liquidity.
Yeah.
You don't have the liquidity to do that, but you have the ability. You can afford it, but you do not have the liquidity. Yeah.
Right. For banks, do they, what's the, is there a bias when it comes to how banks, let's say, provide some of this credit according to your research? How do people perceive banks as well as SACCOs and even for mobile banks, mobile money loans?
I think from the research we've done, most people make it think or have the idea it's easy for them to get loans from SACCOs and banks, particularly because for most SACCOs, you can get 3 times the amount of money you've saved. But when it comes to banks, there's a particular procedure to score your credit. There's a particular procedure that mostly maybe won't favor particularly guys with low amounts of money in the bank or something like that, because banks do offer a lot of people financial services to a lot of people. So we'll find most people, if the go-to destination for financial services will be the SACCOs and the microfinance, because the microfinance space in Kenya is actually very, very big. Because a lot of people financially, they operate financially, small scale financially, not from a big scale.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd also mentioned that Casper has researched on different sector players in the African market.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the kind of ecosystem that is there. So far, and you'd also mentioned this kind of startups that are there. Remember, I think it was late last year, how Kenya was ranked among the top when it comes to the number of startups that are there in the country. Kenya is really leading. But then, do these startups, still even according to your research, do these startups have a favorable ecosystem when it comes to the businesses when they're starting up?
Yeah, I think when it comes to capital markets, it's a very, very huge, it's a big conversation when it comes to capital markets, and boiling down to startups is there's a trend of some of the biggest startups are closing down. Some of the biggest startups in Kenya are shutting doors or reducing the number of employees. One, access to capital, I think in Kenya is favorable. I won't say it's because we have a history of guys raising a lot of money from venture capitalists and everything. But now the other thing I think that most startups don't, particularly those that have been successful in terms of raising capital, is balancing scalability and profitability. There's a fine line between scalability and profitability. I think if you're building a business and you have a capital injection of $40 million, you see, it's easier for you to scale into different countries. It's easier for you to do capital-intensive projects than focusing on building a business model that's profitable. You see, once you build a business model that's profitable, then you start model to scale. Instead of scaling fast, and as you wait for revenue activation and breaking even, and start making profits, providing maybe value for investors. So I think that's the biggest problem we have with particularly startups within the fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG sectors, and also startups that deal with very capital-intensive products.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And so I wanted to tie that question with what we're asking people today. Do they think that the jobs that they're doing right now may be replaced with AI? So the fact that the kind of startups that are starting right now, so many of them in the country, they have to be ingenious, they have to be adaptable with, and realize as well that there's AI. So whatever startup that they're having, it has to be aligned to that a lot, a huge chunk of that as well. First of all, what are your thoughts on how startups are engaging with AI so far? Because I'm pretty sure a number of people might have come to, you guys, and asked, what do I do here? What do I do here? Are they knowledgeable? Do they understand what they need to do when it comes to AI in their startup?
No. I think I have interacted with a number. I've gone to a lot of pitches, people pitching about AI. I think for most founders or guys who are trying to build startups, their assumption or they will use AI as an AI. Everyone says this is an AI-powered platform. This is AI-powered. I think for most people, just terming a business as AI-powered is more of they feel it's more of the game changer, but
ni chumvi wameongezea hapo.
Chumvi imeongezea hapo. People think that now this is what I need to do. But now you really ask, what does the AI do, and what specifically, what is the impact or the value of AI in your business model? That's where most people divert, or that's where most people, that's the question most startup founders won't answer.
So if I was to start a startup today, I call it Nyeringita Startup, for example. I sit down with, let's say, a number of associates. Nikuite niambie tu, I know a very good guy who can do this for us. So I have a full on the table. What are you telling us? What kind of advice are you giving us right now when you're starting this kind of a startup?
I think I've been a consultant for some time. I think the first thing is to do a readiness assessment. One, around your business model. Of course, once we understand your business model, once you understand the kind of data you guys will be dealing with, once you understand the products, once we do understand maybe the kind of data and the governance frameworks within your data, we'll do a readiness assessment of the business model that you guys are building. Okay. And then we'll ask what's the value of data. We don't just go to AI immediately. I think that's the other problem people don't understand. Going to AI immediately is a big problem. Look, try to think, what's the value of data for my business, or what's the value of data in this particular business that I'm building? So
just to top on it, let's say, for example, the hypothetical setup we're talking about here is, let's say, a delivery business. Tunasaidia, umeorder, tunakuletea kwa nyumba. Hauna stress. Kama ni food, tunakuletea kwa nyumba. So this definitely means that a number of people definitely, the core business here is you order and it's delivered to you. So how do you go with AI here?
Now here, there are two aspects. Value for you is you want to increase revenue and reduce cost. Now, I'm sure you're dealing with people who are delivering. So there's routes they're taking. They are in particular, before someone orders, these people are in particular position. So you have to find the shortest route to connect the delivery guy and the customer. Yeah, the delivery guy and the customer. So there's a route this guy has to take to get the goods, and there's a route he has to take to the customer. So the customer has to be satisfied, and also the delivery guy has to reduce to minimize the cost of delivering. So there are certain algorithms that stem into that. One of the algorithms that are being used by even some of the startups in Kenya is one called the salesman problem. TSP. It's an algorithm that stems or tries hypothetically calculates the shortest route and also barriers that exist within a particular traffic period, connecting the customer and the customer and the delivery guy. Right. So when you reiterate that process a lot of time, you'll create a perfect system. So at the end of the day, you guys will be profitable. Everyone is happy. And that is how AI changes businesses.
Right. Yeah. But then, tumeka associates hapa. So the biggest conversation here is we're working on a budget. Because, I mean, when you take a look at the economy, it's not really to the core that we really need. And the biggest conversation and the biggest question we're going to ask you as a consultant when it comes to AI in our startup, and I'm pretty sure even a number of startups and a number of businesses that have been there ever since, even before AI was a thing in Kenya, was how do I reduce my workforce and be replaced with AI? That now comes into the question you're asking people. Because someone might be on the school of thought that kama nilikuwa nimekuajiri hapo, you do a certain workload, I'll remove you from that, and then I'll have someone else, now AI, do that job. How do you help me in this?
That's a good question. So I think I'll start explaining it from the third industrial revolution. What happened in the third industrial revolution is there was a lot of digitization that happened, and a lot of systems were being digitized. That means there was a lot of data that was being transformed into digital formats, and that data was stored at different places. Now with the fourth industrial revolution, the question is that we're asking ourselves, what exactly is the value of that data that was stored? And that's where AI came, because with the third industrial revolution, there was automation. There was automation, particularly robotics processing automation. So these were robotic systems that ideally worked on rule-based, I'd say, decisions. That would mean if this is my invoice, I just take this number and put it here. Take this number and put it here. So then
manually, that is.
Yes, manually. And then probably someone or human input will come and know what to do with that number. Now with AI systems, after the automation has finished, after the repetitive process was finished, AI system will understand this is supposed to go to the debit side of the financial statement. This is supposed to go to the credit side of financial statement. So it will make financial statements out of whatever has come out of that particular process. So the guy that was working,
Aneka
manually. And the guy who was also feeding the financial statements, or the guy who was making financial statement, also gone. But if this guy understood, if this guy learned how to make, or this guy learned the skill of building that AI system, he'll be the person who will be helped. So to answer that question, AI will not replace human beings. It will only replace those people who do not adopt, who do not learn, who do not upskill.
Interesting. Because the next question is, because I'm looking at your profile, you do have a lot on your plate, and I was actually about to ask you that. In what you've done so far, are there certain elements of what you know and what you do really that AI can replace? Not entirely what you do, but certain elements of what you do.
Not really. I think as any person who is deeply theoretical about AI, even from philosophical perspective, there's something we call singularity. We don't know when that will happen. Singularity is when our human intelligence, our ability to process not just information, but also emotions and live, we would level up to the machines, the AI system that exists. The day when AI systems will work as intelligence being, combining a different connection or build an ecosystem, and so that's when we'll say we have attained singularity. Yeah. We do not know what this happens, when this will happen. We don't know the date, we don't know the time. I think that's the biggest fear. But as of now, I don't think there's anything that an AI system can do to replace me.
Okay.
But I know time will come. I cannot predict when the singularity will happen.
So right now you go to what you're saying, and I've heard this a lot. AI won't replace you. It will replace. It won't replace your job. It will replace you if you don't know how to use AI.
Yeah, AI won't replace you, but you'll be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So back to our hypothetical startup that you're starting here. So you've explained to us all this, that I think we really need to now hire someone who understands AI, who will also input some of the skills that he has. But then there is the element of balancing between AI, because we definitely need some of this AI. Kama hiyo ni delivery, let's say if you're using hospitality and industry, in most sectors, I think all sectors right now, you definitely need AI for the smooth running of some things in your business. But then there has to be that element of human touch as well. Kama nimeingia kwa hoteli, you'd want to have someone there akikusalimia vizuri, kuambia karibu sana. There's that human element to it. If it's even the airport right now, let's say a plane, for example, when you walk in, there's that human element. As someone who has interacted with AI a lot, how do you balance? How do you advise people to balance between these two?
I think it's more specialization. I'd say the biggest advantage you can have from AI automating a lot of activities that we do is we'll get to specialize on things that we love. We'll get to specialize on things that makes us humans. As you've said, you'd want someone human to tell you, or someone human to welcome you. So there are certain things that AI will probably do better than you, but there are certain things that AI can never or can never replace. The very, very things that makes us humans. The ability to love, the ability to see, have a soul, art, the ability to feel, you see. Those are some of the things. So I think my biggest advice to people is focusing on things that makes us human instead of trying to compete with these machines.
Right.
Yeah.
And this takes me to something else that is also now tied to that, regulation of AI. Because even in your research as Caspar, I don't know if regulation aspects were involved in this when it came to even the whole credit score, because first of all, even before we get into other sectors, when it comes to even the business segment really, how the kind of my privacy really matters when it comes to the kind of information I share to different mobile loan for SACCOs, for banks as well. My privacy matters as the user, really. How will you interpret regulation of AI right now? Do we need regulation of AI?
Okay, I don't think at this point, AI is nascent. AI is nascent, and a lot of people who are trying to regulate AI don't understand AI. So I don't think at this point, this is the point where we need to regulate AI, because there needs to be a clear balance between regulation and production and the advancements of AI, because sometimes regulation can hinder advancements of AI. And at this point where AI is still nascent, I don't think it's really advisable to regulate. But what we can regulate is data use, data consumption.
Okay.
And because you're giving me your data, and it's that data that I'm going to use to build an AI system out of. So right now we can go big, or we can put more effort in regulating the use of data. For example, when we're building a lot of, in terms of regulation or compliance on building AI systems, is we build classification systems. We build a taxonomy around our AI system where we we classify as high-risk AI systems, low-risk AI systems, and all these documented. And then even before we release these products to the market, including Casper, we did pre-market conformity assessments with experts, not just us, experts. Like, we had to call people to conduct pre-market conformity assessments to different markets. So the thing about data protection rules, it's different for different consumer markets. The East market area has its own. The Francophone market is very different. The Western market, even the Southern market. So we had to do a pre-market conformity assessment before this a set of AI systems are released to the market, or AI products are released to the market. And then the other thing is, I see that really is a problem. As I've said, our markets are very different from the Western market, and even the UK market or any markets. But a lot of regulation, a lot of rules around handling data, most of them are benchmarked from these modern countries, the upper countries, European countries.
So does it mean for African countries, and even in Kenya right now, because there's so many digital lending apps that are coming up, do they understand the balance when it comes to wanting to have the algorithms, as you're saying, and not only even for the digital lending apps, even for, let's say, some social media apps, for example, there's that balance of wanting to have that algorithm that you're explaining to us. You'd want to have, even for the end user, akilogin asubuhi, anapata the same kind of content that he or she has been consuming for a number of days. But then now there's, on the other flip side, my data that you're picking, where are you sharing it? And mostly when kunakuwa na ile nini refu ya unaambiwa soma kitu yote, someone flips and scrolls.
Terms and conditions.
Ile terms and conditions. Una scroll, unachana nayo vitu yote, and you just tap and say, I agree with the terms and conditions. Does it mean that some of these social media apps and digital lending apps, they know that people do not care to even read some of these terms and conditions?
Genuinely speaking, yes. I think for most of them, they want to protect themselves. As they consume your data, they want to protect themselves. But I believe even the Kenyan jurisprudence, there's the duty of care that everyone owes to another citizen. There's a duty of care that these people owe to their consumers. So more often than not, your data, the data that I'm consuming from you, you've already consented to having to letting me access and process your data. You've already agreed, and a lot of time, if we're probably using your iPhone and you're using apps or a new app, it will ask you to allow this app to track your activity and something like that. And it happens. It's a pop-up, a lot of that, but there's no information about how exactly is this data is going to be used. So one of the things, or one of the practices that we recommend is documentation. Okay. So once you have agreed how you've agreed that I, as the commercial or as the AI company, to access your data, you need to document every step that you take. You've taken my data, you've pre-processed my data, you've extracted features from my data, you've exposed my data to AI algorithms, and you've provided this recommendation. Every step needs to be documented. I think it's purposely important that you every AI person or every AI company or any person that's dealing with data from consumers, there is need for documentation, and that will bring a lot of clarity. And that documentation needs to be accessed by the user themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's on the side of data that you'd collect.
Yeah.
So to something else that falls on what you're talking about. You don't really see the need to regulate AI right now.
Yeah.
So far, even during this whole week of protests, the kind of AI images that you'd see are very interesting, and this not only even in Kenya, even globally, for a number of years, AI-generated images, and this goes to the whole extent of how we share information. You might be sharing a particular information that you don't know if this is AI generated or not, because it has reached to a point where a real photo and an AI generated photo are so similar to every single bit. Don't you see any slight need to regulate how AI is used when it comes to some of this usage?
Yeah, I do agree. And those are some of aspects. I think deepfakes, the first deepfake video that was released by MIT really shocked a lot of people. And in most of these developed countries of guys who are advanced in terms of AI development, there's that particular aspect on building, or there's that particular aspect on problems that stem from using AI-generated photos, AI-generated videos, and every other thing. But now the thing is, for me to produce an AI image of maybe you, an AI video from you, I'll need to train a model. I need to train a model with your data, your publicly available data.
Okay. So it goes back to data.
It goes back to data. Okay. So I'll take photos. I'll take so many of your photos in so many angles. I'll scrap from social media, maybe others I'll use, and then I'll train that to generate anything. Now, if I have a complete, every pixel of you, every image, every a singular granular image, a granular detail of every picture, every video you have, if I take that, expose it to a model, train that, test that, I can then I can literally generate any image, video, or view, and the quality of that will depend also on the quality of images or the quality of data. So it stems back to data.
Right.
Yeah. If you regulate data, if you regulate the use of data, you won't have to face such problems.
Right.
Yeah.
I see we have about 5 or less minutes to wrap it up. I'd really love to pick your mind on the future of AI. We've come from afar. Since the 1950s, we had the whole theory of AI really. It built up. For Kenya, even being at number 5 as of 2022, I'm pretty sure right now, when you have even new data as of 2024, things might be looking different. Maybe tunaweza panda number 4, 3, 2, ama tunaweza kuwa tumeteremka. That really depends on a lot of factors. Even globally, being at number 90, and there's so many other countries in the world, might also, for some they might be seeing this is good. Where would ulisema 90 bado hatujafika, considering Kenya is the Silicon Valley of Africa. What do you see the future of AI in Africa, in the world really, and even particularly as Bishara Tuesday talking about matters, the fintech, the e-commerce, where do you see the future of AI?
I think the future of AI in Africa is one of has the biggest opportunity, because there are a lot of sectors that are still unexplored, and you see Africa, when it comes to Africa is part of the emerging markets, or even Kenya itself is part of the emerging markets for these disruptive technologies. So there's a lot of things that we are yet to explore. There's a lot of things that we are yet to do, and there's a lot of injections that we are yet to see, even in our economy. In AI, AI has been here, as you've mentioned, AI has been here since the 1940s, and it was very, very theoretical. It was very, very theoretical, such that it existed only in papers, research papers. But now, as certain factors have grown, things like cloud computing, things like servers and infrastructure, as some of these things have developed, we've also seen AI develop on its own. So it's the same as Africa. There are so many initiatives that are currently taking place in bridging the digital divide. There's a lot of initiatives that are happening in terms of also financial inclusion. So as certain aspects grow, also the adoption of AI will grow, and eventually that will open up a lot of job opportunities, a lot of investment opportunities. It will be solving a lot of problems. So I think AI has an opportunity in Africa, and probably one day we can level up with these developed countries. Yeah.
Right. Is there enough education on the same? Because as you're saying, for a number of people who don't even really have the knowledge, you'd consult to them, and they have a particular knowledge of what AI is, but not what it really is. There's the young people who are in schools right now, the whole education system right now. If AI was to be taught to these young people, coding and all this, will it really help to reach to and leverage to what you're talking about?
Yes, there's need for education reforms. With AI, there's need for education reforms, and there's also need to build capacity on technical on AI technical skills. And for us to get the need, there's a demand and there's what we supply. So for us to match or for us to balance, there's a need of such initiatives to take place.
Right. Right. Thank you very much, John Ofule. He's Head of Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence Africa. He is also the head and co-founder of CASPA. Thank you very much for helping us really understand and helping us relearn and learn what we knew about artificial intelligence. I hope you've learned a thing or two about AI. Remember what we're asking you. Do you think AI can replace your job? Well, Ofule has told you the answer to that. Romeo Gega anasema yeah, 100%. Ikwabe Mosaisi Tata, how does it replace a jobless person? Mo Star anasema it has already replaced. And Teddy Kitungai anasema replace. Question marks, I am jobless. Well, Teddy, don't worry. Hii mwaka ni ile utapata jobo. Don't worry about that. You're watching Monica